Our analyst, political science professor, Stephen Caliendo. Thanks for being back with us. We always get to talk to you the day after.
That's right, day after.
The day after. So let's talk strategy first, because we had a crowded field of 9 candidates. These votes were spread all over the place. So what do these 2 candidates need to do? Who do they need to reach to win this one? Oh my gosh,
it's such a complicated, and you could see some of the pivots in the, especially in Vallis's speech last night, where he, of course, in a field of 9 Democrats, he has to sort of put his bona fides out there to say I'm pro-choice and I'm pro-LGBTQ, but he also, we can assume that he got a lot of votes from more conservative-leaning Chicagoans because he was one of the more conservative candidates in the race. That will certainly be the case in the runoff as well. So the question he has is, does he lean into that and make sure they turn out the vote? Does he try to compete with Brandon Johnson in terms of being a progressive, with the risk of alienating some of those conservatives who may not even come out the second time to vote? So it's going to be interesting to watch.
Oh, yeah.
And see whose endorsements he could wrangle from the folks who didn't win. Lori Lightfoot, certainly not her finest hour. She becomes the first incumbent Chicago mayor who was elected not to gain re-election for a second term in 4 decades, going all the way back to Jane Byrne in 1983. I really thought the pandemic was a bright spot for administration, how she handled that, along with Dr. Allison Arwady. But do you think the pandemic played a role here, or is this about crime and the reaction of the citizens of Chicago who want to feel safe?
There's enough blame to go around. Certainly, Mayor Lightfoot would, if she could go back, there's some things she might do differently. Also, anybody in a situation that she was faced with. It wasn't just the pandemic. It wasn't just the uprisings after George Floyd's murder, but it was also a national narrative where Chicago became a stand-in. The word Chicago became a stand-in for everything that was bad. So all the time that President Trump was in the White House, he had Chicago's name in his mouth quite a bit. But let's not forget, her gender is not unimportant. And so, Ryan, you pointed it out. The last time we had a mayor not elected, the last time we had a woman mayor. So it reminds us of the challenges that women face in governing, that women still face in society. And so you're not going to chalk this all up to gender, but all of those things put together made it a very difficult road for her to get in the top 2 last night.
And to be fair, if she were a man, would she get criticized of not being agreeable or not getting along with people? If it was, you never know. I think there's that stereotype that you fall into that she had to fight against.
Yeah, whenever you're first or you break some barriers, definitely you get a different level of standards and check marks that you've got to reach. All right, let's go back to Vallis and Johnson here, because we have 2 very different candidates. You mentioned Vallis backed by the police union, conservatives, lots of Republicans. We've got Johnson with the progressive backing of the teachers union. What are you really watching as we go into this runoff here in the next month?
I'm watching to see the extent to which they outline policy and outline how they would pay for that whatever changes they want to make. Those are both very important things. If you're from Chicago, this sort of tension between CPS and the teachers union, it's right here before us, right? The history of these candidates is very much that, and so
recent strike that Mayor Lightfoot had to navigate through.
As we're adding to the list of difficult things, and the way she handled that strike for sure, and certainly getting that early endorsement from the Chicago Teachers Union. I can imagine Brandon Johnson, before Chuy Garcia gets in the race, before some of these other folks really had a chance to get any momentum, that endorsement for Brandon Johnson was really important. So there's a lot of planning going on in those campaigns today to figure out how to move forward. But it didn't just start today. I'm sure the Johnson campaign believed they had a good chance to get in the top 2, and the Vallis campaign, I'm sure, felt pretty certain of it.
So, Audrina, we got to put him on the spot. He's here. He's the expert.
I know you're going to ask me to make a prediction.
Exactly. Is this going to be a close runoff? Because there's no, split in the field. There's going to be one winner who emerges on April 4th.
I'm going to hedge, as I do. I'm going to hedge. But I will tell you this. Look, turnout's going to matter. I've been very public about this. I wish we used a ranked choice system in Chicago, where we ranked our preferences and we could sort of do it all in one fell swoop, because then you're there. It's always a risk. Not only is it more expensive, but once people, if your favorite candidate isn't in the top 2, are you going to be motivated to go out? What can these 2 do to get people who supported Willie Wilson or Chuy Garcia or Lori Lightfoot or any of the other candidates, Sophia King, to come out and vote for them? They got to make the case. It's not just the case that I want you to like me, but I want you to take the energy to come out and vote for me or request your ballot as well. And that's not easy.
It's not. We saw the voter turnout last night. You just do not get people showing up or even voting by mail.
On municipal elections, that's right. We couldn't make it any easier. When we were talking about this 15, 20 years ago, we'd say, well, yeah, you got to leave your kid. You got to make sure you get home in time for work. There's a lot of things to navigate here. It's always on a Tuesday, right? We don't vote on a holiday. We don't make it a holiday. But with mail-in voting now, it couldn't be easier, and we're still not seeing the interest. So there's a little bit of voter fatigue. We vote a lot in America. Americans vote a lot, and that's a good thing for democracy, but it also has implications for turnout as well.
All right, we have about 6 weeks to see what happens. Political science professor from North Central College, Stephen Caliendo. Always great to have you with us.
It's great to be with you both. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much.